Please also welcome her mother and Marjeet Kaur. So, as someone with deep Irish roots, I've grown up in a world where walking under a ladder is practically a dare. Breaking a mirror guarantees 7 years of misfortune, and if you forget to knock on wood after tempting fate, well, you better start praying to St. Patrick and hiding from my grandmother. Now, I realize we Irish aren't alone in our cautionary quirks. Our next speaker comes from a culture equally rich in superstition, one where an itchy palm might mean money's coming, where lemons and chilies are hung on doorways to ward off evil, and where even sneezing at the wrong moment could delay a journey. Gurpreet has taken these traditions, hers, mine, and everyone else's, and turned them into something more than strange rituals. She's here to explore what they say about our fears, our hopes, and the curious ways we control the chaos of life. So please join me in welcoming someone who's not afraid to question the signs, challenge the omens, or maybe even tempt fate. A 4-year basketball star and a soccer star, Gurpreet Kaur.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for that wonderful introduction. First, I would like to thank my friends and my family for always being there for me. But I would especially want to thank the woman who has done so much for me to even be here today, my mom. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever knocked on wood to avoid jinxing something? Or even hesitated to walk under a ladder just in case? Maybe you felt a tiny bit uneasy when a black cat crossed your path. These actions might seem small or irrational, but they are all examples of a powerful human phenomenon, superstition. Superstitions are defined by Merriam-Webster as, quote, a belief or practice resulting from ignorance, fear of the unknown, trust in magic or chance, or a false conception of causation, end quote. In simpler terms, a superstition is when we believe that performing a certain action, or avoiding one, can influence an unrelated outcome. While this may seem illogical, superstitions are a universal part of the human experience. They exist in every culture, across every period in history, and they continue to influence how we act and think today. The roots of superstitions go back thousands of years. In fact, one of the earliest known civilizations, ancient Mesopotamia, around 3000 BCE, laid the foundation for what we might call structured superstition. People in this region believed that gods communicated through signs and omens, such as messages in hidden stars, animal organs, dreams, and even natural disasters. These signs guided decisions from everything to warfare to agriculture. Moving to ancient Egypt, we find a culture deeply invested in charms and symbols. Egyptians wore amulets like the Eye of Horus for protection, health, and harmony. These symbols were so important that they were painted on walls, sewn into clothing, and even placed in tombs to ensure safety in the afterlife. Here, spirituality and superstition were tightly connected. The Greeks and Romans inherited and added to these traditions. The Greeks believed in the evil eye, which is a curse caused by a jealous glare. To ward it off, people wore blue charms, a tradition that still exists in Greece, Turkey, and parts of the Middle East today. Romans, on the other hand, were obsessed with omens. They consulted augurs who interpreted the flight patterns of birds before making important decisions. To them, a bad omen wasn't just a coincidence. It was a direct message from the gods. These ancient beliefs evolved over time and continue to influence our behavior in modern ways. Some superstitions are so widespread that we hardly even question them. Take the number 13, for instance. It's considered unlucky in many Western cultures. Some buildings skip the 13th row, some airlines avoid having the 13th row. This fear is often linked to the Last Supper, where Jesus dined with 12 disciples, making Judas the betrayer the 13th guest. The association stuck, and now we have a widespread aversion to the number. Another well-known superstition is that a black cat crossing your path brings bad luck. In the Middle Ages, people believed that black cats were associated with witches and evil spirits. But in ancient Egypt, all cats, especially black ones, were seen as symbols of good fortune. This contradiction shows how superstitions are shaped by cultural values, not universal truths. There's also the belief that breaking a mirror brings 7 years of bad luck. This idea likely originated with the Romans, who believed that mirrors could capture a part of your soul. If a mirror broke, it meant that your soul would be trapped or damaged, causing misfortune. Then there's a superstition of walking under a ladder. Practically speaking, it is dangerous, but symbolically, the ladder forms a triangle, a shape that was once considered sacred. Disturbing it was thought to invite misfortune or disrupt divine balance. Superstitions aren't just limited to Western culture, they exist everywhere. In France, stepping in bird poop with your left foot is considered lucky, which, for me personally, that would probably ruin my day. In Turkey, chewing gum at night is believed to turn into human flesh. And in Japan, sleeping with your head facing north is thought to bring bad luck, because that's how bodies are laid in funerals. For me, growing up in an Indian household, I've encountered plenty of superstitions myself. For example, a black cat crossing the road is considered bad luck, which seems to be a global trend. When giving a check or a gift, we often include an extra dollar or coin for good fortune. So if I ever give you 101 instead of $100, I promise I'm not bad at math. It's a blessing. One of my least favorite superstitions is that sneezing an odd number of times is a bad omen. As someone with allergies, this one does not work in my favor. Before leaving the house, my mom would make me go back inside and eat a spoonful of sugar. It was our way of resetting the energy before stepping back out. Now, let's talk about one of the most superstition-heavy areas of life, sports. Athletes across all levels, high school to professional, rely on rituals to prepare for these games. These superstitions can include wearing the same socks for every match, following a strict pregame meal routine, or even listening to the same song on repeat. I interviewed a few classmates to ask about their pregame rituals. Hannah said if she wins the racket serve in tennis, she always chooses to serve first. She said she feels if she doesn't serve first, she will lose. Rain says, if I don't play with a braid in my hair, I don't play as well. Scott, before every at-bat, draws a cross in the dirt at the front of the home plate and always puts his left glove on first. He says without this, he does not feel comfort while batting, and it is something that he will always do. Superstitions in sports provide athletes with a sense of control and routine in an otherwise unpredictable environment. So, what makes people hold on to these superstitions, even if they logically know better? The answer lies in psychological comfort. Superstitions give people a sense of control, especially during moments of stress or uncertainty. Whether you're walking into an exam room or stepping up to the plate in a baseball game, doing something familiar, even something superstitious, can reduce anxiety. Psychologist B.F. Skinner famously demonstrated this with pigeons. He randomly gave them food, and the pigeons began repeating whatever action they were doing at the time the food appeared, like turning in circles or pecking up the bowl. They believed that their actions caused this reward. This is a concept called superstitious behavior. Humans do the same thing. If you wore a certain shirt during a big presentation and it went well, you may wear it again, believing it brought you luck. This is known as operant conditioning, when a behavior is reinforced by a perceived positive outcome, even if the connection is just imaginary. There's also the idea of magical thinking, the belief that one's thoughts or actions can influence unrelated outcomes. This type of thinking is common, and while it might not be scientifically accurate, it's emotionally powerful. Superstitions act as emotional anchors. They help us navigate through unpredictable moments and provide comfort in chaotic times. Even if they don't change the outcome, they change how we feel facing it, and that can make a huge difference. While superstitions may not be based in science, they are deeply human. They reflect our desire for control, meaning, and comfort in a world that often feels uncertain. They connect us to our cultures, our past, and our individual sense of security. As we move on to the next chapter of our lives, whether it's college, work, or something in between, we're going to face a lot of unknowns. And in those moments, it's okay to rely on the small things that bring you peace. Maybe it's knocking on wood, or wearing a lucky charm, or even eating a spoonful of sugar before a big moment. These rituals may not have power in a scientific sense, but they hold personal meaning. They give a moment of calm, and sometimes just a little more confidence. So, to my fellow seniors, as we prepare to step into the future, don't be afraid to carry a lucky pen or follow a ritual that helps you do your best. In a world full of uncertainty, a little belief, no matter how